Hi, I'm Ed from Uckfield Motor Services, and we're back again with Professional Motor Mechanic magazine, recording another bit of content. And today we're with Elta, talking all things EGR valves. If you're enjoying the content, then please subscribe to the YouTube channel. First things first, we're going to talk about how EGR valves work and what they do. So what is an EGR valve? An EGR valve is an exhaust gas recirculation valve, and it pretty much does what it says in the tin. It recirculates the exhaust gases back into the intake manifold to lower the combustion temperatures. The reason for this is because of the Euro 6 mandate, which was basically telling everyone that they had to lower the nitrous oxide emissions that were coming out the back of a car. And the only way they can really effectively do this is with an EGR valve system on the car. So 10 years ago, EGR valves were quite simple. They generally just used to be a vacuum operated valve done by a solenoid and just could be actuated either on or off. These days, they're completely different. They have got vacuum ones still, we've got electronically operated ones, we also got high pressure and low pressure. So high pressure is normally before the turbo, low pressure is normally after the turbo. To add to that, they've even put coolers on them to try and bring that temperature down even further so it lowers the combustion temperature in the cylinder. Petrols also have EGR valves, so you both have diesel and petrol now have an EGR valves. They both have different purposes and how they work, but effectively they are still an exhaust gas recirculation valve and they still work in the same manner. So that gives you an overview of how EGRs work, what they do, and the main purpose of them. So let's talk about how we go about diagnosing EGR valves. So a good diagnosis starts off with actually knowing how the part works. Whatever you're replacing on a vehicle, you need to know how it works and what it does. First port of call, obviously, most of the time is an engine management light on there, running issues, stuff like that. You've got to get as much information as you can from the customer about what is going on. We send out a questionnaire beforehand and they have to fill that out before the car even comes in. Next thing is normally you plug it in, pull the fault codes off of it. Most of the time, I mean, like with VAG ones, we see a lot of the P0401 codes, because we changed lots of those in the 1.6 diesels. So we kind of know what that is, but sometimes the codes aren't always, they're a bit ambiguous and they don't give you the full story. So we'd have to go in a little bit further than that. And the way we do that is by training and researching and looking into stuff. It's really important that you get a good diagnosis on the EGR valve. There is lots of other items on the vehicle that can cause said codes to come on and flag an EGR valve, and we've all been there where you've bolted an EGR valve onto it and it doesn't sort the problem, or the problem reoccurs a month down the line, 2 months down the line, and then you've got an unhappy customer, because some of these bills to replace EGR valves are quite expensive, so it's worth doing a good diagnosis. Next thing I would do is obviously check the state of the rest of the engine. You might have multiple fault codes on there, like injectors, air mass, stuff like that. And that could also cause problems for the EGR valve. Also check the service history, because if a car hasn't been serviced, you know it's probably going to be clogged up with carbon, which can also block up an EGR valve eventually. So make sure everything's good on the engine management before you bolt the EGR valve on it. And that's what a diagnosis is vitally important, because if not, you'll be taking the EGR valve back and sending it back, even though that's probably not the problem in the first place. I've got this VAG EGR valve off the 1.6 diesel, and I think some of the 2 litres, which are a real pain to change. I mean, they are 4 or 5 hours, and that's if they're not a 4x4, and they're a real pain, as most people know. And we've changed lots of them in our time, and that's why it's really important to make sure the part is correct first time. Because if you're stripping and taking 2 or 3 hours to get this out and then find out it's the wrong part, and you've then got to reorder another part, customers waiting for their car, you got it stuck on a ramp, so it's downtime for the ramp, the technician may be hanging around. It's a real pain in the backside, so it's worth checking that the part is correct. We cross-reference everything when we get it in. We use various websites, tools, there's plenty out there now, which means you can get the actual OE numbers and cross-reference it with the part that you need. So it makes it really useful. Elta have over 365 different EGR valves, which apply to about 10,000 different vehicles. So they've got a full range of EGR valves and lots of other parts as well. So you should be able to cover most bases with Elta. It's a really good thing also to check that the fitting of them is bang on. It's really important that you use new gaskets while doing them, using the correct torque settings when you're doing them up, because if you don't do these pipes up correctly or line them up correctly, they're going to leak air. which may not show up straight away. It may take a full duty cycle of 100, 200 miles on a vehicle to show up, and then once again, you can have a very angry customer when their engine management light comes on in a week or two. It's worth checking all the data and make sure you have the correct torque settings, make sure your coolant pipes are done up, make sure your connections are fitted properly, so you can have a happy customer. It's really important to make sure they're mechanically fitted properly, but we also haven't covered the electronic side of it. A lot of these require coding, not just deleting the fault codes, but actually coding the EGR valve into the vehicle. Some of them also require software updates, so it's really important to check through some decent diagnostic equipment that you have actually done the readaptations and carried out any relevant software updates. We've had plenty come in where the customer has been to a different garage and just had the EGR fitted, and they've just cleared the fault codes, and lo and behold, the engine management light comes back on, or it goes into limp mode, or whatever happens, and all that needs to be carried out is the readaptations. It's literally normally a 5-10 minute job at the end of the job. So make sure all relevant coding and software updates have been done before sending the vehicle out. Another important aspect is actually educating the customer on what this does. We've all been there, we just call it an EGR valve to the customer, but they don't know what an EGR valve is. So it's worth educating them what it does, why it does it, and what effect it's going to have on the vehicle if it's not done. We've had it where the EGR valve has been locked in a certain position and the vehicle won't even start. I mean, the best case is they're going to have an engine management light on and it's going to go into limp mode, but that's why it's vitally important to tell them what it does, what it needs, and what it's going to do if we don't have it done. It's worth explaining to them that this may be masking other problems in the engine management system. I mean, I use an analogy, it's a bit like a coolant leak fixing engine management. If you've got a big coolant leak, and you repair that big coolant leak, there may be a very small coolant leak further up the line, which will then show up once you fix that big coolant leak. Engine management is very similar. You may fix this, but where this now starts working really well and doing its job properly, it may show up another fault in another part of the engine system, the engine management system. So it's worth explaining to the customer, just spending the time with them. They're saying, we've cured this, but there may be future problems with other components on your engine. Elta is a well-known British brand looking after a lot of engine management and lighting needs. Look after brands like VX Pro and Lucas. I mean, we've been using them for many years, especially some of the Lucas and the VX Pro stuff, and I've never had a problem, not really had any comebacks of any sort, and they've always been a good quality product that fits straight away. They also, the good thing is, on the VX Pro, a lot of it comes with a no quibble 5-year warranty, which really gives peace of mind when fitting their product. So I have no problem recommending Elta or any of the products that they supply or any of the brands they look after. I hope you enjoyed the video today. If you want some more information on Elta's products, click the link below. I'll see you on the next one.